You are listening to Withstood, produced by Crossbrand.
Folks, this podcast that you're about to hear contains some rather emotional points. I just want to let you know that. The story of Matt and Tammy Parker and their sweet baby girl, Brynna, is going to be a phenomenal story. You're going to be sad, and you're going to be filled with hope at the end of it. Well, folks, welcome back to the podcast, Withstood with Crossbrand. We have two very special guests on today, really special to me, and now they are very special to Crossbrand. And we were just lucky and blessed enough to have them come on board with us here at Crossbrand a few years ago. I'll kind of start at the end first, Matt, okay, and Tammy, and let's talk a little bit about what you guys do for a living now. So this is Matt and Tammy Parker. I tried to figure out how long I had known you guys, and I think you both were 14, probably 14.
Freshman.
When I met you guys as a freshman at Martin's Mill, huge ISD. Yep. And Matt and Tammy were my students, and Matt and I spent a whole lot of time together over his. I guess that was the deal. God knew I needed to start with you my first year teaching, and then wait until you graduated for me to be my final year at Martin's Mill.
It was.
We started having babies, and then we moved. Lord opened up a spot for me to teach at home at Quitman, yep, and that's when we moved. Matt and Tammy, welcome to the podcast. Appreciate y'all so much.
Good to be here. So
tell us where you're at now. What do you do for a living? That's the main thing.
What is my title? I'm a software quality assurance engineer.
Yes.
I test software.
Okay.
At home. I work from home.
Work from home?
I've spent, 7 years, I guess, teaching school.
Mm-hmm.
Got my principal certificate, and I think I graduated with that in August and left teaching in November of 2017.
But you never served as administrative somewhere?
No, just taught. I taught theater, speech, and debate just like at Martin's Mill.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's good time.
How long were you in, as far as that, as a teacher?
7 years.
7. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, that was the whole deal.
The whole deal.
But you pastored how long?
I guess this August would be 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah, we were brand new married, yeah. I was 19 when I took my first church.
Wow. That was not smart.
No. No, we were expecting our first child when we took our first
Oh, my gosh. So y'all married at 19?
18.
I was 19.
She was 19, I was 18.
Yeah.
In Stanford, Texas, you were talking about Stanford the other day, being out there, and that's where our first church was Stanford.
No way.
Yeah.
His grandmother grew up there.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
My dad was born in Stanford.
No way.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, lots of good people out there.
Yeah.
Good people. I don't know if there's any good Baptists out there, but
I think they had like 40 churches in the town.
Yeah, I imagine so.
They had a third Baptist church in Stanford that was a split off of the second Baptist church.
Oh, you betcha. Tell me, what do you do now?
I am a special education teacher. I teach elementary resource.
How long have you done that?
I've been in special ed. This is my 8th year. And then before that, I taught Head Start. So I've been in teaching 20 years.
Oh, 20 years. Did you start teaching at Martin's Mill and you're still there? Yeah.
I started subbing when our kids were little. And then they had a little girl that they needed a one-on-one aid for. And so they called me and see if I wanted to do that. And that's how I got my foot in the door.
Wow.
And then once I got my degrees finished, then I took over Head Start.
I did not know that. That's an incredible story. All right, we're going to go back. Guys, I really didn't have Matt and Tammy here to talk about career and where they're at now. If you have not heard their story, that's why they're here today. As I've always told you guys online, that the reason for this podcast is to bring people who've had some common hurts and maybe, like we always say around here, some hurts, habits, and hang-ups, but especially Matt and Tammy have faced it just seems like one hurdle after the other, but they are the most hope-driven people that I probably ever met in my life, and that's why they're here today. And I wanted them to tell you the story. Much of their challenges have been about their family and children, and that's where we're going to start. So, y'all got married. You was 19. Matt was 18. When did you have your first baby?
I just turned 21.
21.
We had our first one.
Yeah.
We were in Stanford when he was born.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
He wasn't born in Stanford.
No,
he
he's
was
born
born
in
in
Abilene.
Oh Lord, no! He wasn't born in Stanford. He had been born at the Walmart or something.
That's right. That is so true. So let's talk about your kids and your family, the adoptions, the loss, and challenges with disabilities.
Well, of course, first the earth cooled and then it started.
Yeah.
We've had kids in the house, Dolores, the whole time. Austin will be 29.
He will be 30 this year.
He'll be 30 this year. Oh my goodness.
No kidding. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it goes fast. We've got four biological kids, three that were just, I would consider normal, run of the mill kids, and they're all doing well and do great and did all the things, basketball, and we followed them around. And in 2007, we had Brynna, and we knew early on, I guess it was in January of 2007.
Was it my 20-week ultrasound?
Yeah, 20-week ultrasound. We went in and they realized, everything wasn't quite what they expected. We found out then that she had a cleft lip and palate. That's kind of all we knew at the time, that she was going to have a cleft lip, but it was a midline cleft, which is different. Most clefts are on one side or the other, but when it's in the middle, apparently babies form from the middle out. And anything is, if you got a birth defect, the further away it is from the middle, the better, because that means you had more time. And so they knew that was special, and kind of went from there. Just through that roller coaster, we pretty much after that when how long was it after that we went to Dallas? And
3 weeks.
They sent us to have an amniocentesis to check for trisomy 13, which is a genetic, disorder. They told us that she had it. And
she had all the signs.
All the signs, and they said it's not compatible with life. And it was at that doctor visit that they...
Yeah, they sent us quickly because at that time, if I was going to abort, I had to abort by 24 weeks. And so they got us in, and at that doctor visit, the nurse came in and she said, "I've called the clinic. It's ready. They can go take her right now." Had not consulted us at all.
Yeah, they just set up the abortion procedure.
And I told them they could call them right back.
Wow, I was going to ask, how did that conversation go with that nurse?
I almost went to jail that day.
She just assumed.
She did.
Yeah.
And then Matt started to talk and tell them no, and they physically put themselves between us and turned to me and said, "He doesn't get a say."
"It's your decision, Miss Parker," she said.
Oh my goodness, guys.
Yeah. Almost got in a lot of trouble that day.
Oh, the redhead
came out.
Yes, sir.
But
I grabbed my purse and I said, "We're done here."
I didn't have to speak. We were talking a while ago about her.
Did that experience ever happen again at another doctor? Was that brought up?
No. Well, because shortly after we crossed the legal line, and so it didn't happen again. But there was a lot of pressure on us in that short period of time. People saying things like, she's not going to make it, and if you have this baby, all the hardship that's going to be, and gave us all the reasons that we should move that direction. But that wasn't ever on the table for us.
That was,
never on the table.
Never on the table. So that was at 20 weeks?
It was at 23 weeks.
23 weeks. And so what was the rest of the pregnancy like for you, Tammy?
Physically, the pregnancy was fine. There was a lot of stress. We immediately started seeing specialists, and I had to go for ultrasounds every 2 weeks to see how things were changing. They said she had they did some kind of test. I forget now what exactly, but they said she had a tumor in her brain.
Yep.
She had one kidney, and you could just start multiple things that
every
they were
time
discovering.
we went back, there was something different.
Yeah. And so we went. They didn't want me to deliver in Tyler because at the time Tyler didn't have a NICU, and so we were obviously going to be in Dallas, and but they didn't want me to go into labor naturally because I have fast labors, and so they scheduled a C-section. She was breech, and they weren't sure that she could survive the trauma of birth.
Wow.
And they really didn't know what all they were going to find.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of one of those deals that we know that things have the potential to be super bad. And so they wanted us in Dallas so just didn't know.
Yeah.
So many unknowns.
So many unknowns.
It really was.
That's amazing.
Even in the delivery room, which was an interesting experience all by itself.
Yeah.
I mean, we roll into the delivery room and there's 15 people,
She had an entire team waiting for her.
I mean, just all kinds of folks. And that was really kind of when we knew we were in for a haul. Of course, it's one of those things you never forget. Of course, she's having a C-section, so she's under some anesthesia but awake.
Sure.
And we kind of talk about it now. Is when she was delivered, she let out just a tiny little cry,
Little squeak.
and then it stopped. And of course, then there was just frenzied activity, and we couldn't see anything. They just engulfed her. The neonatologist was there, and she's looking at me, saying, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know, and I can't tell." And she actually coded twice in the delivery room.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it was kind of, we're kind of talking to each other. Is she okay? I don't know. And I heard them say, "Start chest compressions."
Oh my goodness!
And that's when we really knew exactly what we were in for. Well, we didn't know what we were in for. We knew that it was going to be a rough trip. Mm. And then he, Dr. Schwindeman, I'll never forget. He looked at me. They put her in an incubator. He points at me and says, "Dad, come with me and run." And we literally sprinted through the hallways of Medical City until we got to the NICU. Because they had to get her on machines fast to get her, stabilized. And I had to leave her, Tammy, in the delivery room. Mm. And how long was it before you got to see her?
About 2 to 3 hours. I had to get through recovery, and they took me down to see her. They rolled my bed in kind of parallel to her, and I could kind of touch her, but of course we couldn't lift her, hold her, or anything for almost 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So she was
almost 4 weeks.
Yeah.
She was on so many machines.
Lots of machines.
And tubes and stuff were.
She was intubated, had a breathing machine, and couldn't breathe on her own. I mean, it was just everything you could imagine was not good. And I don't remember if it was that day or the next day. You might remember, Tammy, but when they did the brain scan.
The next day.
And we met with the neurologist, and that's when he told us what all was the problem, and massive just brain damage.
Whole parts of her brain didn't develop.
Yeah, just missing. And told us that she wouldn't make it, just going to be a matter of days or weeks. But she just didn't give up.
And that was 2007?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
she'll be 18 in May.
18?
Yeah.
Okay. What has the journey been like with Brynna?
It's been an adventure. It's had seasons of there for a long time. I say a long time. When she was little, of course, everything is discovery at that point. We're learning how to do it. We're learning how to be special needs parents, and you tell people, you have a child that has special needs, and that can mean so many different things, but really we were the parents of a disabled child. That's a little different.
A lot of people think special needs, they think Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Where they're still physically able to move and even communicate.
Yeah, not being able to communicate. I mean, and, the fact that for a while she has a huge gap in the front of her face, just from the physical. I mean, I was in Walmart you see people in Walmart and they have a baby and it's new, And they're like, "Oh, let me see your baby." And we would have people all the time. She'd be in a bassinet or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, let me," and they'd get to where they could see her, and they would be like, "Oh," and then we just turn around and walk away because they didn't know what to say.
Oh, goodness.
And even had a lady one time said, "Did y'all know that her lip's not right?" And
Oh, my goodness.
I actually was just like, "No, we're kidding. She was okay when we left the house. What happened?"
Oh, my gosh.
But
Matt.
just stuff like that, learning to deal with that, learning to tube feed.
Place an NG tube.
Yeah, have to put a tube up her nose so she could eat. That's how it started.
Wow.
Yeah, 'cause she can't. Still to this day, she doesn't take a whole lot by mouth.
Yeah, she
has a tube that she's fed by.
But I remember just watching Tammy one time. I wish I had it on film. She's talking on the phone, and what happened? Of course, the tube goes up her nose, and Brynna would sneeze, and it would fly out like a whip.
Yeah.
And Tammy's on the phone, and we got to where she just picked it up and shoves it back in with one hand, and gets it up, and never skipped a beat on the phone.
Oh, goodness.
You learn to do stuff like that. Of course, then later she got a G button, which she still has, and which comes out every now and then. One time it popped out at Lowe's, and it's got a hole that'll shut. You have to be, we had it one time where that happened. It took 11 hours to get it back in at the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And so we didn't know what to do. We went to go put it back in. You have the right gear, but we didn't have it. We didn't have the right syringe. And Austin was how old?
Early teenager, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 13, 14 years old. So he had to stick the end of his pinky in there and hold it open till we went to the
urgent care.
And I just walked in and I said, "I just need a 5cc syringe." And they're like, and I showed them the button, and I was like, "I need to put this back in." And they were like, "I don't know if we can do that." I said, "Look, I'll buy it I'll give you $5. I just need a syringe." I had to get a doctor to come out.
We don't need a needle. We just need
to put water in. I filled it up in the water fountain and went out and put the button back in. We finished our day shopping.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's just become life. As they start missing milestones, I guess that was probably one of the biggest things when she was little. When kids that are her age, we had some kids in the church that were right in the same age, and you watch them going to school, walking, talking, and it's not as noticeable when they're little, but when they start getting older, and kids are having their big 12th birthday party with all their kids over, and yours isn't. Proms, those sorts of things are tough. Just missing those milestones. People going on vacation and you don't get to. We went to one vacation as a family in 2013 when Brynna was about 5 or 6. We went to Colorado for the week of Christmas. Of course, she gets sick the day we get there.
Oh, no.
She didn't do well with cold and the altitude, we found out. And it's a whole other story. I'll tell that some other time. She cleared a bar. She got so upset and was throwing up, and just because she didn't like the cold and was screaming. And there was a bar up on the mezzanine, and it was so bad. All the patrons left. They were just like, we couldn't.
Oh, wow.
The manager came out and said, "Can you make her be quiet?" And Tammy said, "No, I can't. But if you've got any ideas, I'll take them." And stuff like that as you go through life.
She developmentally
about 2. She's about 2 in some domains.
Okay.
It varies, but she's nonverbal.
Okay. She walks.
She walks assisted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Independently, she walks on her knees.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she's just over the years of not being able to get around, her joints and stuff are really bad.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. But, you just living constantly with, she's been on several helicopter rides to the hospital, an airplane ride, ambulance rides, of never knowing. The first, I guess it was in October of 2007, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Her first helicopter ride to, Flight for Life. She had a long, extended seizure, her first seizure. And we had to call 911, and they got in the helicopter, and
they weren't going to let us go with her.
Yeah.
And we have a notebook with all of her diagnoses and meds and doctors, and I handed it to the guy, and I said, "You're going to need this." And he looked at it, and he said, "Okay, Mom, you can go, but you're going to sit in the front, and if you say a word or start to panic, you're out of there. Wherever we are, we will put you out." And I'm like,
And we believed him.
I rode all the way to Dallas, just silent, just sitting there in the front of that helicopter.
And I had to drive, to go meet him. So there's a couple of hours of not knowing if she was alive.
Yeah, of course.
Horrible
time of waiting.
And you asked the question of what's it like, and I mean for us that's just normal. That's every day. She started having regular routine seizures a few years ago.
She had them a few back then, and then she stopped for about 10 years. We didn't have any, and then about the time she got to be about 12, we started seeing them pick up again.
And so
now it's just several a week.
Yeah, and
it's pretty bad now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can.
In fact, Saturday night she had 6 back to back.
Oh goodness.
She doesn't, she stops breathing and stuff in there. So and there's nothing you can do. Just wait it out. And, every morning when we go to wake her up, it's every morning there's a moment of, is she still with us or not? Mm-hmm. And it's weird because every time, she takes a breath, makes a sound, rolls over that first time, there's a bit of, we made it another day. And that's just kind of become part of the daily life.
How in the world, is she in, y'all are here right now, so a nurse is with her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I know on Sundays.
We have nursing.
Okay.
Yeah, we have home health nursing that helps us out.
Is that pretty much every day that y'all have to go to work? And
it hasn't always been that way. It's come and go, but they come Monday through Friday and
go to school with her.
Go to school with her.
Oh, okay. So she is in school at Marshall.
She's in the life skills program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that she hasn't always been in school, but she got to where we could do it. And then we just recently, this is a couple of years ago, we started getting weekend nurses. But up until then, we never did have that. Weekends were always pretty tough, being in the ministry and stuff, especially.
Oh my goodness, Matt. Yeah.
So
has there been times when you felt like you guys were doing this alone?
Oh yeah, and
sure.
Well, it's still like that sometimes, and it's not because of malicious intent. It's just when every Friday night everybody's gonna go out and have dinner. We don't get to go.
She can't. She has autism on top of everything else, so she can't do crowds. She just melts down. It scares her. Her eyesight is limited, so if a restaurant's darker, she can't see well, and it scares her.
Yeah, it gets her scared. Well, and there's practical things like, when she was little, we could take her a lot more, because you can take a child that's incontinent into a changing table and change her. But when they're 16, 17, 18 years old, there's nowhere's equipped for that. And
no.
And so, you have to change her, or stuff in a public place. And it's hard on her. It's embarrassing for her, because you got to do what you got to do. You have to take care of her. And so there's isolation that comes with that, of just not being able to go and do. Like I said, that 2013 was the last vacation we went on as a family. Can't go. And then 3 years ago, the kids let us go to Hawaii.
2021.
All the kids put together the resources and helped us to get coverage, and she and I got to go to Hawaii for a few days.
Good.
But that's the kind of stuff that's hard, really, is just, and it's not that people don't care, they're just scared. Everybody's scared she's going to die when they're watching her.
Tiresome thought.
Yeah, and as best as you try to tell them, you have to be honest and yeah, that could happen. But it's okay. It's not your fault. It's just not something you can really ask a lot of people to put themselves in that place. And so you don't. And you just figure out how to live.
Tammy, as a mama of Brynna, what would you say to other moms that have children with disabilities? And there's no question that you love that baby girl. That was at 23 weeks. You made that very clear. What would you tell the mamas?
Gosh, you can do it. I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be isolating. I've been really fortunate. Matt's very involved. I know I've got friends that have disabled children that their husbands left them over it.
Oh my goodness, guys.
So I've been very fortunate with Matt being as involved with her as he has been, but you can still do it. There's people out there that will help you. There's groups of moms that have disabled children, and I know in some of the bigger cities and stuff they get together just like the typical moms groups with the play dates.
Mm-hmm.
But
their kids are 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be hard.
Would you be willing to talk to mamas one-on-one?
Yeah. I mean, I have several times.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do that.
for sure.
Matt, I know you've written about this a lot. Mm-hmm. Matt has I don't know how many ministries you're involved in, but Crucible's Fire is a big deal. He wrote a book on Brynna. And you have said from time to time, even as you preach here at Crossbrand there's been some lessons along the way.
Yeah.
What can you encourage parents with children with disabilities or any of us?
For me, the biggest thing has been to just remember that not only is God sovereign, but that he is so compassionate. And it can feel like nobody, not even him, cares about where you're at. But it's just not true. One of the biggest lessons for me was, people ask us things all the time like, what's wrong with her? What happened? What broke? And I always tell them, I said, well, I just don't think that that's even true. The big lesson for me was in Psalm 119. According to the word, he knit her together. So either that's not true, and he didn't really do that and knit her together this way, or he's not really sovereign and it was a big oops and he just couldn't control it. And I don't believe either of those are right.
Man, that's a good word, Matt.
I believe that he had purpose for the way she was made exactly the way he desired her to be made, or he would have made her different. And we've seen countless numbers of people who've come closer to the Lord, been saved because of her, and she never spoken a word. And just watching her struggle and suffer, and she does. Life is hard for her. And she's just as happy to watch Blue's Clues as everything. And that in and of itself has just really been a constant reminder for us that, and Tammy said, you can do it. We have people tell us all the time, I couldn't do what you guys do. And of course, the snarky side of me is like, well, what would you do? Nothing?
Yeah.
But the answer is yes, you can.
Yeah.
The power of the Holy Spirit, it's not something you can pursue. It's something he just delivers. And we talk about it all the time, is the peace that he brings us in those moments of being in the hospital, signing directive documents, and knowing you may have to. And we did that once in the NICU. We had decided to let her go if she couldn't come off the ventilator. And she wound up being okay. But there's a peace in that time that comes, that the peace that passes understanding. There's no words for it. But it prepares you when bad things happen. People say to us sometimes, y'all just are flippant about things. It's like, no, it's not that at all. It's not flippancy. It's just
faith.
It's just, it's going to go
You
the
just
way.
believe God.
You just believe God.
She's his.
She's his.
He can do with her whatever he pleases. And if I can't come to church and say I trust him if I don't trust him with my baby girl.
Right.
Amen. My goodness, guys. And that sweet baby, I guess, and I say this with all due respect, but I say this with a probably, I've got a pretty good vocabulary, but, you know, I'm just going to say this. She's on a fast track to meet Jesus.
She is.
Yes.
And guys, listen, that may have come across harsh to my listeners,
It's not.
but these two sitting across this table from me, they're the most strongest faith people I've ever met. Not that they don't hurt, not that they don't want to give up in the fight sometimes. I know y'all. You're human. You have to. But that baby girl is on a fast track
Yeah.
to meet her Savior.
Yep. Well, we just this morning, the reason we're in town is because we had a meeting with her doctor, and today was the day we signed the DNR papers of deciding what you do and don't do when it comes time. And she doesn't belong to us. And to cause her more pain and suffering than is necessary when that time comes is a selfish thing. Because she's going to be a lot better off when that time comes. And we're not there yet, but
No.
there's worse things than dying, especially for believers. It's the thought.
Say that again. I need everybody to hear that.
For a believer, there are a lot worse things than dying. You know, we encourage ourselves with the ideas of her running and speaking and joining that chorus of singing. And she will one day.
Yes, sir.
And we will have been better off because we got to know her. Because we got drawn closer to him through her. And I tell people, I don't see a path where I know the Lord, we know the Lord in a way that we do now without her. And one old preacher said, not only is it right, whatever God does is right, but it's all right.
Well, if I can get the words out right now, this is first time I've ever gotten emotional at one of these deals, but I will just tell you, it's very providential. All three of us know that there's no accidents.
Right.
You two of all people, but I'm speaking Sunday on the topic when God says no. What do you do when God says no? And the listeners out there need to know if it's a disabled child or if it's a child, and we're going to save this for another podcast, but you lost a child due to murder.
Right.
Y'all lost a child.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have you guys back.
Okay.
I want this to be dedicated to Brynna.
You know, you talk about him saying no. I pray for her every morning. That's just our routine. It has been for 18 years when we get her out of bed. And it's been my routine to ask God to heal her because I believe that he could.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, he told Lazarus he couldn't be dead anymore. So,
Yep.
and there was a day that things shifted in my prayers, and I believe the Lord spoke to me. And I tell people it would not have been as clear had he been audible. I think it would have been less clear. And I was praying for her, and I'm praying in faith. It's like, make her legs work today. Could today be the day she says something? And in my spirit, he said, I'm going to heal her, but not that way. He said, she's more valuable to me the way I made her than the way you want her.
Yes, sir.
And so that shifted my prayer.
Wow.
Into use her today.
Yes.
Make her not hurt today, and then use her today.
Absolutely.
And do whatever you want to with her. And that's a shift in thinking. It's a big shift in thinking of just relying on God when he says no. He knows better.
Yeah. I normally ask my guest on the show to give us any takeaways, but I don't think there's any need to ask the question. Matt and Tammy, y'all honestly blow my mind, both of you. And I know it's been hard in so many different on so many different levels, of course. But folks, if I just may say this, I'm not the interviewees here. There's never been a couple that displays that God's grace is sufficient. When Paul said he prayed and he asked God to remove his problem, and God said no. And God gave him a new heart, and he gave him new power.
Yeah.
But he didn't change his circumstances. And you are a living testament of that. I just appreciate y'all so much.
Thanks for having
Would y'all
us.
be okay if we dedicated this to Brynna?
Sure.
Sure.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely. Please do.
I want people listening to know, and it sounds trite. It really does, but it's not. And that's God is good. He's just good. And if you can hang on to that and convince yourself of that, when you get into these dark nights of the soul, it really makes a huge difference.
Yes. Amen.
He's just good.
Tammy, I love you. Matt, my brother, I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you.
You bet.